This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Spring Heel Jack Coffee. You need great coffee. Jack delivers. Visit springheeljack.coffee.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/frightday.
It is Frightday. I'm your host, Byron. And the late, great Albert Einstein once said, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. But what about those who change their minds, tested in the face of pervasive ones? Miracles. What's another word for miracles?
I don't know that there is a good, actual
Miraculous
equivalent.
accounts? Miraculous events?
Happenings?
But what about those who change their minds? Tested in the face of miraculous happenings? We'll talk about that, Mary, hysteria, and ponder what Al might think tonight as we review Evan Spiliotopoulos' The Unholy. And in the spring of 1917, 3 Portuguese children saw something astounding. An apparition that offered a prophecy pinpointing the date of a miracle and shared with the youngsters some words in confidence. It's the miracle of the sun and the 3 secrets of Fatima. In this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, I'm joined tonight by Kelly.
You didn't even screw a little bit of that up. I'm super impressed, Byron.
Thank you.
That was great.
I mean,
that was really good.
Sam can't make it because he's on an assignment for $150.
Yeah, well,
Actually, Kelly, now's not really a good time.
For what?
I gotta cut this short, actually. Busy watching Mike Lindell's FrankSpeech.com launch.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Is it over yet? Has somebody taken it, hacked it and destroyed it yet?
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the lefties to quit attacking the site so I can complete my sign up and get my first name as a screen name and speak freely.
But not about Jesus or Trump.
Yeah, because that's as free as the Lord would want it, Kelly. No C words, no N words, no F words, or use of the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the no N words, but the rest of that seems ridiculous.
Biblical free speech is what he's calling it.
We're going to get into a lot of the Bible tonight. Actually, no, we're just going to get into a lot of religion. I don't think I'm going to talk about the Bible much at all.
Very thematic episode so far. Yeah, Kelly, it does appear either the website was trashed to begin with or people are attacking it with some sort of, I don't know, he's got Cloudflare up, so I don't see what could be going wrong, but they're in the middle of a 48-hour live stream. He made a fake newsroom.
Oh my God.
It's absolutely amazing. So far, he's gotten 2 really incredible prank phone calls. One guy pretending to be Donald Trump and then cursing and advertising his website.
Live. And they didn't have a delay to block it?
Of course not. They're hardly keeping this thing up. It's like a 55 pixel wide video.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
All there is at frankspeech.com. It's absolutely incredible. Mike Lindell has fallen apart at the seams, and those seams were loose to begin with, and that tuxedo is made in China, I guarantee you.
It's made out of pillowcases.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they make those pillows in the great state of
Wuhan,
Minnesota. Things are great. The world is totally fine and normal. I do want to say, quick shout out to the folks supporting my new project at thechair.frightday.com. We got Thomas B. donated $20, and then an anonymous person donated $10. So really appreciate that.
It's really nice, you people. I mean, I don't have to yell about it this time because it's not a stupid cause anymore.
New podcast.
I wish you'd just completely disassociate with the chair, but at least it's 1 degree removed now.
Well, I still will buy the chair when I sell the show. There's got to be a Montana Mike Lindell out there.
I'll do some research and I'll let you know. I mean, I know of some people that you can get into. I would love for you to dig deep into this one person I know that needs to have whatever dirty secrets he has aired. Bring him down.
I think you're looking more for a personal private investigator, but
Shanoa and I will give you some information.
all right, fine. Something fun this week, Kelly. We popped on a live stream because we saw a freaking theatrical film. Hey,
What are you doing?
we're on live.
Oh, you're live streaming already.
Yeah.
We're just in the lobby, though.
Well, yeah, we're back.
I got my big soda.
Got a large soda? What do you got there?
I got my bag of treats.
Couple of extra Wonder Woman.
Oh, I bet they're just awesome.
They're
those,
trash cans.
This is crazy. We're back in the theater.
I feel like I need to take a souvenir from going back to the theater. We went to a movie. It was so weird.
Legendary. We'll get into the experience later in the show, but I just got to say up top, I had a blast.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
That's really all there is to it.
We were back in the theater. I got to eat some yummy snacks. There was a slight, weirdness with the popcorn butter dispensing, but we solved that quickly.
Yeah, they dumped it all into Jamie's pretzel bites.
They did.
There was a giant sopping pile of butter. I don't know who's running that joint, but the inmates are running the asylum.
I know. But yeah, it was really nice to be back in the theater, especially to be only in a theater with people that I trust. I want to go to the theater again, but I'd like to go like that. Do you think we could go like that forever?
You just want to keep spending $200 to rent out private theaters?
I mean, yeah, it's just nice to not be scared of the people that I'm there with.
I don't think
it's
we're
also
there
nice
yet.
to feel free to yell.
You got a little loud, Kelly.
I did. It was great.
You got a
because
little
Sam
loud.
couldn't get mad at me for it.
Let's talk about that whole thing later. I spent the week watching that new John Wayne Gacy doc.
This is the first time you're speaking publicly.
I had no need to talk to the media. They were looking for sensationalism and they were looking for the monster.
Police found 29 bodies buried in shallow graves under Gacy's suburban Chicago home.
He's a very good neighbor. We socialize with him.
Gacy was well respected in his community and even dressed up as a clown to entertain children.
He said to me, clowns can get away with murder.
Seems like a bad idea.
Peacock put it out. Gacy, Dahmer, Geen. People have been, Ramirez too, throw him in. People have been talking them to death, but I think it was time for us to revisit John Wayne Gacy, actually. I learned a lot more. Yeah.
Great. I'm glad you learned so much.
Interviews that they got, I thought that series was great. Devil in Disguise.
God. How do you spend, like when I watched the Into the Storm.
Yeah, the Q doc.
That almost broke me just watching that series. Like I no longer can even watch ads for anime without thinking of the Watkins duo. The fact that you like immerse yourself in things that disturbing constantly, I just don't understand.
I just think it's interesting, Kelly. I don't know what to tell you. I do want to say I probably wouldn't subscribe to Peacock other than just watch Devil in Disguise, but there's too many streaming services. I think we talked about that on the Normie Roundup in Behind the Screams.
Did we?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I've blocked honestly, I think my brain is still trying to recover from that series.
The Watkins family and the rest of the Q folk have really destroyed your head that much, huh?
Yeah, honestly, they have a little, and it's just crushed my soul to think about the power that they wield.
General Flynn was on Mike Lindell's live stream over at frankspeech.com. We're not sponsored by them, and I still don't have my username.
Will you stop trying to help them?
I want frankspeech.com/Byron. That's really all I want is my first name as a username.
Like I said, just don't link anything about this show to that. I will murder you.
Okay, fine. Fair.
I'm already spending way too much time curled up in the fetal position in my new Nessie bathroom.
Yeah, not enough time at work, at the video store. It's time for staff picks.
They say so much, but they never tell you if it's any good.
Werewolf movie with E.T.'s mom in it.
The Howling, horror straight ahead.
Not done. Because what else are we going to do? Just say it's time for staff picks? Come on, guys.
No, I like the video store thing. I think we need to stretch it.
So I completely coming into this blind. I forgot my staff pick. So this is me doing my book report. without
Improv. Let's go. Improv. Let's go. 1, 2, 3.
2016 supernatural horror film directed by Brad Payton. This week I'm recommending
Paisley?
The Aaron Eckhart.
Never been a fan.
Aaron Eckhart, A Vehicle Incarnate.
Whoa.
I'm not going to do that. Of course not. That's a terrible film.
Whoa.
Remember that thing?
Yeah.
Religious horrors. You know, there's so many of them. It's a very
Wow.
wide...
Do you know how much better I am at improv than you?
I know. That's why I wrote 14 pages last week.
Jesus Christ.
2011 film directed by Kevin Smith. One of my favorite films he's ever done. A little thing called Red State.
What is this, man?
It's like Craigslist for people who want to get fucked.
I thought Craigslist was Craigslist for people who want to get fucked.
We're getting laid, boys. She wants all three of us at the same time.
It's gonna be like fucking my mom.
This is what happens when parents block porn sites, man. They make socially backwards kids.
Bet you boys want to get up to the devil's business, don't you? So get drinking, because I ain't drinking alone. And I don't let no man in me unless he's got at least 2 beers in.
Yes, ma'am.
Guys, is that you, Travis?
Welcome, family.
Good evening, Granddaddy.
I hate the wickedness of America. Rampant fornication, adultery, abortion, flagrant sexuality. Everywhere.
Hey, you fucking bitch! Let me the fuck out of here!
And it's up to the righteous to curb the spread of this disease. You mind taking children out now? Gonna get grown up in here.
Send the sinner straight to hell. Send the sinner straight to hell.
God doesn't love you. Unless you fear him.
One of the best performances by the late, great Michael Parks. You got a John Goodman. It's got...
I prefer Tusk.
Excuse me?
I prefer Michael Parks and Tusk.
I completely disagree. I think that the Michael Parks sermon as Pastor Abin Cooper might be one of the best monologues in modern horror history. This has so many elements of things I love. It's Westboro Baptist Church-esque folks, an ATF standoff, very similar to the Waco situation, and I just love this film. That's all I really got. If you haven't checked out Red State, highly underrated. And I really enjoyed, this was one of the first films that Kevin Smith toured with to promote. That's a staple of how he releases his films now, maybe out of necessity, but I love that. I remember some of the Westboro Baptist Church folks picketed it, and then he ended up inviting them in. But of course, they left after 15 minutes because they were disgusted. I love this film. I wish that Kevin would go back to writing good scripts. I believe he just announced a new Clerks film, and I'm like...
Over it.
Yeah. I mean, I would watch Moose Jaws if he ever got to that, but that's Jaws with a moose in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick with Tusk.
He's doing something called Kilroy. Never mind. I don't know what it is, though. What do you got, Kelly?
I actually had to choose between the remake and the original, and I went with the original, though I do like the remake mostly because I'm a big fan of ex-Mr. Naomi Watts, Liv Schreiber. The Omen from 1976.
It is the greatest mystery of all, because no human being will ever solve it. It is the highest suspense, because no man can bear it. It is the greatest fear, because it is the ancient fear of the unknown. It is a warning, foretold for thousands of years. It is
this one starring Gregory Peck, Lee Remick.
The Omen.
It's all for you.
Fun little fact, the son, Harvey Stevens, who plays Damien, appeared in the remake as a reporter.
Oh.
He now is a stockbroker and real estate developer in England. Good for him. Didn't have much of a cinematic career after this movie, but boy, he still gives me nightmares. And you know, there's a time that there was a student named Damien that was going to work with me that I actually almost said no to just because the fact that his name was Damien freaked me out.
Something's wrong.
I mean, I didn't say no. He turned out to be a very nice young man.
I don't know what to tell you, Kelly. You're broken. You're worse than me.
Well, you know, it's creepy. He actually had blonde hair, which is why if you look at pictures of this kid in the movie, his eyebrows are creepily blonde and his hair is dark brown, which gives him even an eerier look. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but it's kind of a fun little...
Easter egg?
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about that. I also didn't know much about this new Kevin Smith thing. There's apparently a trailer. The still from the trailer is a machete in the face of his daughter, who's actually, she's done a lot more acting recently. But apparently he's selling the film as an NFT. It's a horror anthology loosely based around evil graffiti called Kilroy Was Here. Huh.
Well, I don't care about that, but back to Damien and The
tell me.
Omen. It's a classic, this little kid has something to do with the devil film. Honestly, for whatever reason, I guess the reason is it came out in a similar era. But
As
I feel like
Exorcist?
this and The Exorcist make the best duo of like...
They're sister flicks.
They're sister flicks and they're sister birth control flicks, because The Exorcist will make you terrified of having a teenage daughter, and this will make you terrified of having an adorable little boy. And between the two of them, they're just, you're screwed. So I would watch both of them if you're feeling inclined towards having children. Watch these, make sure you're actually ready for it. If you still like the idea of having kids after watching both of them, you're probably in fine shape.
What about Rosemary's Baby?
I don't know. That one doesn't bother me as much. And also, that's more about the whole world in which she lives. The offspring is demonic, but you don't actually have to deal with that in the movie.
Not yet.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think it's just classic. The scene, It's All For You, Damien, it's like one of the best things I've ever seen. There's a great monkey zoo scene. I got to rewatch it. Maybe it's time to show this one to the girls, do you think?
I don't know. I think that's a pretty brutal, violent scene where a nun hangs herself and crashes through the stained glass window.
Oh no, it's not a nun.
church.
It's just a nanny. It's fine.
All right. I'm not really feeling Reed MacArthur's tone in this AV Club article about Kevin Smith's.
Why coming back to Kevin Smith? Who cares about Kevin Smith? This is Richard Donner. Richard Donner is a much better filmmaker.
No longer content to ruin his reputation with increasingly terrible movies, Kevin Smith is broadening his path of devastation and contributing to the destruction of both the health of modern art and our environment by getting into the NFT game.
I mean, I don't know that I disagree that much with him.
All right, guys, go pick out your films and get out of here.
Richard Donner did The Goonies and Superman and The Omen.
I know.
And Lethal Weapon and Scrooged.
Why are we talking?
And Radio Flyer and Maverick and Conspiracy Theory. This man is just like...
Kelly, you're supposed to be enlightening people.
He is the bee's knees.
They know about The Omen.
I think that that's one that gets overlooked. I think that because The Exorcist came out at the same time, I think it gets way more play. I'm just saying.
But one thing they might not know about would be a series of events that happened in October of 1917.
Well, technically the event started in 1915, but yes, they culminated in 1917, October 13th.
In this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
This is from O Século's October 15th, 1917 edition, newspaper out of Portugal. Astounding things. Oh, by the way, it's translated because I don't speak Portuguese.
Oh.
How the midday sun danced at Fatima. The apparitions of the Virgin, what the sign from heaven consisted of, many thousands of people affirm a miracle occurred. War and peace. Lucia 10, Francisco 9, and Jacinta 7, who claim to have spoken with the Virgin Mary in the shrubland of Fatima, a town in the region of Ormuz Villanova. Now, this reporter gives a lengthy description of arriving in the town. It's funny, Byron, because if you have a moment to read it, it will remind you a lot of the movie. The more I dug into this, the more I realized that movie was just absurdly based on this.
The movie The Unholy that we're covering soon.
Oh, yeah, the one that we went to see in the theater. The groups alternate singing praises to the Virgin, and a terrified hare leaping out of the tall brush and away scarcely diverts the attention of a half a dozen children who catch it and leave it prostrate with blows from sticks. That's a little fucking scary. And the little shepherds, Lucia, 10 years old, a visionary, and her little companions, Francisco, 9, and Jacinta, 7, still have not arrived. Their presence is signaled maybe half hour before the time that was indicated as coming from the apparition. We've got some translation issues, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
The girls, crowned with flowers, head to the site in which the portico is erected. The rain falls incessantly, but nobody loses patience. Cars arriving late reach the main road. Groups of monks kneel in the mud, and Lucia asks or orders that hats be brought to them. The order is passed along and obeyed promptly and without reluctance. There are people, many people, as if in ecstasy, people deeply moved, on whose dry lips prayer is paralyzed, astonished people, with immobile hands and watery eyes, people who seem to feel, to touch the supernatural. The child affirms that the lady spoke to them more than once, and the sky, still menacing, begins suddenly to clear up overhead. The rain stops, and it is affirmed that the sun is going to inundate the countryside, the sun that the cold morning sadly took away. The hour advances and oversees this multitude, which dispassionate calculations of educated persons immune to mystical influences compute to be 30 or 40,000 people. Reports were as high as 100,000. You know, whatever. It's like a Donald Trump crowd.
All right.
The miraculous manifestation, the announced visible sign, is about to produce itself, many pilgrims assert, and then a spectacle makes itself present, unique and unbelievable to anyone not a witness to it. Side note, this is a secular newspaper. So Portugal at the time was a Catholic country, but it had a very secular government. And so, like, there were religious newspapers and then there were secular newspapers. This is a secular one. Important to keep that in mind.
Sure.
From the summit of the road where cars congregate and many hundreds of people remain, whose valor became scarce in venturing upon muddy earth, the entire immense multitude is seen turning towards the sun, which presents itself free from the clouds in its zenith. The star resembles a plate of opaque silver, and it is possible to stare at the disk without the most minimal effort.
The disc?
Mm-hmm. It doesn't burn, it doesn't blind. It may be said to be an eclipse in progress, but a colossal uproar suddenly arises, and the spectators that are closest are heard to yell, "Miracle, miracle, oh, marvel!"
Look at the miracle.
To the amazed eyes of those people, whose attitude transports us to biblical times, and who, pale with astonishment and with heads uncovered, face the blue sky. The sun trembled. The sun had never before seen brusque movements beyond all cosmic laws. The sun danced, according to the typical expression of the peasants, perched on the step of the public bus from Torres Novas, an elderly man whose stature, at the same time sweet and strong-willed, reminiscent of Paul de Roulade, don't know who that is, facing the sun, recites the creed in a clamorous voice from beginning to end. I ask who he is, and they tell me he is Mr. João Maria Amado de Melo Ramalho da Cunha Vasconcelos.
Da Cunha Matata.
That was a big name. Portuguese is hard.
It is tricky.
Later, I see him address those around him who keep their hats on, vehemently begging them to remove them in the face of such an extraordinary demonstration of the existence of God. Identical scenes play out elsewhere, and a lady cries out, deep in affliction, indeed almost in a fit of suffocation. What a shame! There are still men who don't take off their caps before such an incredible miracle. Why do you think people used to be so fascinated with taking off your hat?
Well, sure,
like, what if your hair was gross and you hadn't taken a shower, and it's actually much more polite to have your hat on?
Well, it's important to some religions to humble yourself by showing the top of your head.
I guess.
I don't know.
I guess.
I think... Whoa, spilled something almost. Removing your hat is considered to be a gesture of respect for particular people. That's all. Hats in church are
yes,
not
I know
acceptable.
that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I think it's a silly hang-up. All right. And later on, some others ask if they saw it or what they saw. The majority confesses to have seen a trembling or dancing of the sun, but others declare to have seen the smiling face of the Virgin herself and swear that the sun spun around like a wheel of fireworks, that it descended almost to the point of burning the earth with its rays. So there are those who say that they saw it successively change color.
Are we just saying the sun's dancing? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, so this is an account of what happened in a little area of Portugal called Fatima. This was the culmination of more than a year's worth of sightings reported from some very young children. So it's an interesting situation because the children were believed, and I think that is rather interesting. But it's also interesting because there were somewhere between 40 and 100,000 people that gathered for this event on October 13th. And according to reports, enough people saw it that The Vatican eventually investigated, and the Catholic Church eventually declared that the apparitions were worthy of belief. They built a chapel at the location of these sightings. They did acknowledge the cult of Our Lady of Fatima. So it was a pretty big deal. It's probably the most widely known and widely believed miraculous sighting of modern times. There's a lot that goes along with it, as there would be with anything of this sort. We were right on the precipice of this time frame where, like, if it had happened 10 years later, we would have had a lot more visual evidence for it. As it stands, there are a number of pictures from the day that you can find. Most of them show the crowd. There's one that you may be able to hunt down online that says it shows the actual dancing sun. However, it is not. That is not what it is.
It's very difficult, especially back then, to take pictures of bright things. You have to control the amount of light that comes into a camera, and doing that manually at that time was very difficult. So
yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. You can't just shoot in auto at the sun.
Correct.
That's not how it works.
So
they didn't even have portrait mode.
All of this actually began in 1915. And in order to get a context for when these interesting sightings began, I think it's important to give a little bit of information of what the country was like at the time. Mm-hmm. Portugal was a Catholic country. However, we aren't even 100 years out from the end of the Inquisition. So, it was 90 years prior had been the last witch execution in the area. Like most areas in Europe, there were long-standing pagan traditions that had kind of melded with this Catholic faith that has become pretty popular in the area. But some of these long-standing traditions include things like fairies. There's a group called the Mora Encantada, which refers to both a singular fairy and also a group of fairies that supposedly guarded doorways into other dimensions. Interestingly enough, this is also a belief that's linked to the Basque region. So,
throwing it back. How come we've never done a fairy episode?
Yeah.
Was that the rule? I think Sam and I early on were like, we can't do that.
What?
We can't do fairies. I think that's what Sam and I said back in the day.
I'm still part of the Fairy Investigation Society.
Oh,
I love fairies.
All right. Okay.
But I am going to do more on fairies, but not until solstice. So the other thing that was really popular in this time, as it was popular stateside and in England, spiritualists, like psychics and mediums. Mm-hmm. Though this isn't very frequently discussed, in March of 1917, which technically is before the children predicted this event for October 13th of 1917. Some spiritualists ran ads in local newspapers. They predicted some massive event that was going to happen on May 13th, which in fact ended up being the day that the children saw the first vision of Our Lady. So there's a little bit of background for Portugal at the time.
The U.S. spiritualism trend, was that happening at around the same time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it had been going for a while, as it had been going for a while here, but it was kind of, it was a big deal.
Well, we talked about that in episode 95.
We sure did.
We dug into Ouija boards.
Oh, God, those Ouijas.
Staring at one right now.
So in 1915, a little 8-year-old girl named Lucia was reciting the rosary with friends when the three of them saw a white human figure floating above the trees. They came back twice more to this same location to pray, and each time they did, they saw the same figure. So a little bit of weirdness to get going. Then the next year, 1916, Lucia was playing with her two cousins near the opening to a cave and heard strong wind shake the trees. Then a white figure appeared above the treetops. A beautiful young boy, quote, as transparent as lighted crystal. He came up to them, said he was the angel of peace, and taught them a prayer that they could recite for non-believers. They repeated it after he left, and for about a day afterward, they were kind of out of it and could do nothing other than repeat the prayer over and over and over.
Do you know the prayer?
No, of course I don't know the prayer. I don't know what the fuck the prayer was.
No, okay.
Now, there were 2 more encounters with this same little boy, all right? One was by a well, where he called himself now the guardian angel of Portugal, and told them to offer sacrifices to save themselves from God's punishment. Came back a 3rd time that fall, gave them communion, and again asked them to pray for those who didn't believe. So every time this figure showed up for the kids, they were exhausted afterwards. They had dry skin, parched lips, they were disoriented. put a pin in some of those descriptions because we're going to come back to them. Okay, so these kids are all shepherds. Like, they're wandering around the hillsides taking care of sheep.
Sure.
Okay?
Plenty of time
So-
to... never mind.
What?
I was plenty of time to come up with something.
That's true, but I don't know. It's interesting. Going into this, I did think that they may have made this whole thing up. I don't think they did, but we'll talk more. So now we're finally at May 13th, 1917. And our three friends, Lucia and her two cousins, Jacinta and Francisco, they're watching sheep, and they looked towards a nearby cave and saw a very bright light coming from that direction. A beautiful little lady, here's a quote, clothed in pure white clothes, claimed to be from heaven, asked them to come back to the same place on the same day each month. The beautiful little lady opened her arms and sent a beam of light that hit the children and filled them with a sense of peace and joy. Interesting descriptions.
Yeah, blasting someone with light is not usually peaceful, but...
Well, and a side note here, there are lots of different accounts of how the children actually described these figures originally. There's more than one account that says the original description wasn't quite a picture-perfect fit for the Virgin Mary, and that the descriptions were later altered to omit certain details in order to make it much more harmonious with the idea that it was the Virgin Mary. So, for example, little lady, Virgin Mary is not short. They described her as wearing a white dress that came down just above the knees. Virgin Mary never wears a short dress. That does not happen.
No.
Ever.
Well, how do we know? I mean, for the longest time, Jesus was white.
Oh, according to most people, he still is. It's so fucking stupid.
How do we know what Mary looked like?
Well, I'm just saying that all of the descriptions of Mary, she is fully robed.
By all accounts.
I mean, you ever seen any inch of Mary's skin other than her hands or her face? Because I sure as hell haven't. Again, this returns to the idea, was it the Virgin Mary or not? Now, another thing to make note of, Francisco, the little boy, said he saw her, but he never heard her speak. And for some reason, the two girls said they did hear her speak and also saw her. All right, so May 13th, after this sighting, she rises up to the east and eventually drifts out of sight. Super weird. A lot of weird things here. Returned in June 13th, more spectators. July 13th, even more. And July 13th was a big deal. So this is going to be what we discuss next week, guys. But there were 3 secrets revealed to the children on July 13th, though that didn't get as much attention early on. The lady told them in July that both Jacinta and Francisco would die soon and go to heaven. A little bit grim, considering they're little kids.
Did they all see the apparition, or was it just the leader of the group saying that?
No, the 3 of them said they saw her.
Okay.
Only the 2 girls said they heard her.
Okay.
But all 3 of them said they saw her.
Is this a riddle?
And then the spectators around these events only saw a faint cloud where the children said they saw the little lady. Yeah. And they also heard a quiet buzzing sound, possibly a voice, while the interaction was supposedly taking place, but they couldn't make out any words.
Who was told that 2 of the girls would die and was only...
Oh, no, not 2 of the girls. The boy and the girl. Jacinta and Francisco.
Oh.
The lady, the little lady in white.
Who heard it?
The 2 girls, because Francisco didn't hear anything she said.
It's kind of fucked up.
Maybe just, I don't know, something with his chromosomes. He couldn't hear her.
No,
I don't
I'm
know.
just saying, like, if it was just one of them saying that the other 2 were going to die, that would be, like... Super not cool.
Told the 2 girls that the siblings, Jacinta and Francisco, would die soon and go to heaven.
Okay.
But that Lucia would not. At the end of the exchange in July, there was a loud explosion that people heard, and a small cloud raised from the oak tree where all of these sightings were taking place. And this is where all the rest of the apparitions would appear. The location didn't vary. We've talked about a few locations, especially with the earlier sightings, but from this point forward, everything's happening at the oak tree, all right? She asks them to pray for peace and promised that there would be a miracle in October. And this is when she showed them the 3 secrets of Fatima, which we will return to later. Now, the kids were getting real famous.
Stranger Things famous.
Okay, the word was spreading.
They're putting on a hell of a show.
Middle of World War I, things are not going so well on the planet, and so everybody's kind of jazzed about something to be hopeful for. But again, as I said, the Republican government of Portugal was secular / some people would describe them as atheist. And they thought it had to be a hoax because they thought, okay, this is just the damn Jesuits trying to ramp up their numbers and get people to believe in Catholicism more. So they were incredibly skeptical. All right. Even Lucia's family accused her of lying. And she was the oldest. She was like the only one that was supposed to survive. She was the oldest one and the one that had been a part of the earlier sightings too, like the ones in 2015. 2015. The ones in 1915. So the local mayor, listen to this, actually brings all 3 children in, again, 10, 9, and 7, interrogates them. They refuse to say that it's a hoax. They refuse to say that they're making things up. And they stick to their story, like very consistently, which, as we know, is pretty uncommon when little kids are making things up. When anybody's making things up, really.
Yeah, they're likely to break.
He kept them in prison. They were in prison on the 13th of August when the next apparition was supposed to occur. People said that they saw the cloud and they heard the bang and saw a bright flash. And some people even said they saw the clouds change to all colors.
Well,
even tree leaves changing to different things like flowers. But the children weren't there. So nobody knows if the little white lady said anything or not.
Well, the first thing just sounded like a lightning storm.
Except it's like the middle of the day and it's like sunny out. And I don't think it's a lightning
cloud.
Storm. Could be mass hallucinations, but I don't think it's a lightning storm. Well, so the kids were finally let go ahead.
At the time, was there any hoax that could have influenced this? Like
a copycat hoax?
Well, yeah. I mean, around the same time, though, I think we at some point had talked about the Cottingley fairies.
What year were those fairies? I still don't think they were fake.
1917, yeah.
But what time in 1917?
I don't know.
The photographs were taken in 17, but they weren't popularized until 1920.
Those are famous pictures of supposed fairies that were an obvious hoax. But I guess if you're saying they happened after this, then that's not an influential hoax at all. But
yeah,
this is not the first time in history that people have seen supernatural apparitions.
Okay, but what you're talking about here with the fairies is 2 kids that said they saw them. What we're talking about with Fatima is, like I said, between 40 and 100,000 people, depending on which number you believe.
All right, well.
So pretty different, pretty different.
That's true.
So the mayor finally lets these poor little kids out of jail because he's an asshole. I can't believe he put 3 little kids in jail. But on August 15th, he lets them out. And then on August 19th, they're out tending to sheep when they see the clouds start changing rainbow colors. The woman appears to them and asks them to pray for peace and make sacrifices for sinners. So just a broken record. Same shit over and over and over again. But she did show up because obviously she didn't get to see him on the 13th because they were in jail. September 13th, there were 30,000 visitors this day. And there were even a couple of priests who doubted the veracity of the story. They were coming in basically saying, okay, these kids are probably making this up. They would later say that they felt changes in the atmosphere and saw a ball of light appear and settle on the tree. It's another description I want you to kind of store in your memory banks. Mm-hmm. The children saw the lady who again promised a miracle when she returned in October. She even said she'd throw him a bone and heal a few beggars in the meantime to try and keep people believing in it. So some people claimed to have been healed from ailments in the area, though obvious no medical documented situations there, just some anecdotal stories. Now, October is the really big deal. 70,000 people is the most common number you will see again. Between 40 and 100, we're going to split the difference. We're going to call it 70.
That is a large stadium.
A ball of light left the cave of St. Irene and approached the children. It was pouring rain, which is interesting because in terms of if you're going to try and say this was a hoax that many people didn't catch on to, if they had fire or something like that, it would have extinguished in the rain. Okay.
Sure.
The lady announced the coming of the end of the war and asked everyone to stop offending God. She called herself the Lady of the Rosary on this instance. She earlier had called herself the Immaculate Heart. Kind of weird. All of these apparitions seem to be shifting the names that they go by, which I think seems a little weird. That's the one thing that shifts with the stories of the children, although they were consistent in saying which instance these apparitions used which name, but I don't know why they would switch names. That seems very strange to me.
Yeah. So even they recognized it.
The lady opened her hands and shot a laser light on the sun. Lucia pointed to the sun, and the children say they saw various holy figures standing by the sun. making the sign of the cross. But the spectators, as we talked about in the newspaper article at the get-go, saw a spinning silver disc that shot beams of colored light in all directions. So at one point, the sun became so dark that stars became visible in the sky. The disc suddenly stopped spinning and then zigzagged towards Earth. People fell to their knees and repented, begging forgiveness from God. Then the disc shot back up and, quote, joined the sun. Now, if you'll recall, it was pouring rain. Everybody was soaked. But after this 10-minute sighting, the ground is completely dry. All the clothing is completely dry. And in fact, everybody's skin is very dry and like lips are parched. There's even some people reporting burns.
Were people just not hydrated? I don't understand. Like, why are their lips always parched? And why is it something that people are writing down?
It shares a whole lot of characteristics with... Maybe we'll wait.
Okay. So suspenseful.
Here's your clue, Byron. Jacques Vallée and Eric von Daniken have some very distinct beliefs about what happened at Fatima.
Well, and I do want to point out something. Several times, I believe, you've used the term laser, which was a word that we didn't have until 1957. Are we talking about a beam?
I'm paraphrasing.
Okay, well, I just want to know, like, what exactly is this?
Light. Beams of light.
Beams of light. Okay.
Beams of light.
Sure.
Yeah. So if you look at the photo, like if you Google, there's this weird photo that shows kind of like an oblong ball of light on top of what might be like a hill. It's real bad quality. But it was actually run, I'm sure it's going to be in the show notes of this episode of Frightday.com.
The October 13th account?
Yes, but here's the problem. It was run in 1951 in a newspaper in Rome that's affiliated with the Vatican, and it was run as like absolutely verified true photos. So then like the New York Times ran it, Time Magazine ran it.
Wow.
And then it came out that this photo was actually taken in 1922.
Years later.
And it was taken about 20 miles from Fatima, and it was taken at sunset, not at noon. So it's a little bit confusing as to why it was ever published as real, but that photo, that has nothing to do with Fatima, other than the fact that some asshole claimed that it did.
This thing.
Now, Byron, because this happened in the 1900s, early 1900s, we don't have any witnesses still alive today, but we do have an audio clip of a witness who was there on the day of the event with his mother. I think it'd be great to play that clip for our listeners.
When we get in the cover, I see the soldiers try to stop us to get down in the cover. Everything was wet. It was a good 3 inches of water and mud, everything in the ground. I was, I say, between 7,500 feet from the hill and from the tree. And the sun started breaking. And then the sun started roll, like dancing from one place to another place. And then we see the sun come towards where the shield and where the tree. And we see the sun come right into the tree. And the sun, about a minute or so, and the sun started rolling back again the way it came in.
My God!
Everybody started howling, cry. Some started to confess himself. Even my mother grabbed myself and he squeezed me to her and he started crying. That's the end of the world. The wind started to blow pretty hard, real hard. But the ground was dry just like it was exploded. And then our clothes, we don't feel at all. The clothes dry. And we look out, we was clean, just clean. The clothes come from the laundry. I can get it out of my mind. That was a miracle, a real miracle.
Following this event, Catholicism did indeed see a resurgence in Portugal. And a few years afterwards, the Republican government that was very secular was replaced with a Catholic government. So I guess that was a win. These days, there are 5 to 6 million people that make a pilgrimage to Fatima every year. It's one of the most popular shrines in the world. Obviously, the largest numbers come on May 13th to celebrate the day that the children first saw the apparition of Our Lady Mary, or somebody else that could have been a short, translucent, skinny lady-looking figure.
Somebody else or something else.
Sadly, the prophecy about the two children did come true. Both Jacinta and Francisco, brother and sister, caught the 1918 Spanish flu that swept through Europe. Jacinta kept telling people she was going to die, even though they were trying to save her and they moved her to different hospitals, but her condition got worse and worse and worse.
But she went to spring break that year, right? And that was
probably.
Kind of
that's
bad.
probably what happened. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Poor little Jacinta.
Poor little Jacinta.
I mean, just this teeny tiny little thing. This is like one of the most depressing stories ever. She developed pleurisy. She endured an operation in which 2 of her ribs were removed. Because of the condition of her heart, she couldn't be fully anesthetized, so it was like the most painful thing ever.
Jesus.
But she used that pain, saying it would help to convert many sinners. It was like a sacrifice she thought she was making. And then on February 19th of 1920, she asked the hospital chaplain to hear her confession and bring her Holy Communion and administer extreme unction because she said she was going to die the next night. He told her condition wasn't that serious and he'd return the next day, but the next day she was dead. She had died, as she often said she would, alone.
Wow.
So she was 9. Pretty sad. And her brother died the previous year. He declined treatment at the hospital for the flu and died at home on April 3rd, 1919. So he died at age 11, I believe.
You can deny treatment when you're 11. Wow.
So that's a pretty grim piece of it. Lucia went on to become a nun and actually lived a very, very long life, though there were a couple of times things got a little bit close.
What does that mean? What is that? Wait.
She actually lived until 2005.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty
Just
incredible.
missed an interview opportunity, Byron.
Dang. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Guess we got to pull out the Ouija.
There are plenty of theories, of course, about what this sighting was on October 13th that somewhere between 40 and 100,000 people witnessed. And then there are also a lot of theories around what the 3 secrets of Fatima were that were revealed to the children in July. The first 2, there's a bit more consistent belief on, though even those 2, there's a bit of discrepancy. But the third one is like the all hell breaks loose, so many different theories about what the third one was. And the reason for this is Lucia wrote a memoir in 1941, and in that memoir, she revealed the first 2, but said that she was not going to reveal the third. The lady had told her not to. And then we get into like secret sealed prophecies with the Catholic Church and things that are hidden in the Vatican and popes deciding whether or not to reveal it. And it's a whole barrel of laughs. It's going to be really fun next week.
Can't wait.
Yeah, so next week we're going to talk the 3 prophecies, Van Daniken and Valet, you know, in terms of what may have been seen on that day and some of these strange connections between, I'm sure you've gathered by now, what was reported and what many people who experience UFO sightings and even UFO abductions report.
Well, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Love a bunch of young liars and religion.
Oh, did you see the picture of those cute little kids? They weren't lying.
I mean, the cute ones are the best liars.
They're so serious, so sad.
That's true back then. Not a lot of room for laughs, especially in the middle of World War I, right before a worldwide epidemic. So a lot of stuff you were talking about sounds familiar.
Yeah, real familiar. It's funny because I picked this topic, obviously, before I saw the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But holy cow, I don't know that I've ever had a topic more closely aligned with a movie before.
Holy cow. Let's talk about some similarities as we review The Unholy.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Gotta remember how to say his name. I wrote it at the top of the thing. The Unholy is a 2021 American supernatural horror film written, produced, and directed by Evan Spiliotopoulos. Goddamn. A disgraced journalist investigates a girl who can inexplicably heal the sick after a supposed visitation from the Virgin Mary. However, when strange events start to occur, he soon wonders if these phenomena are the result of something more sinister. Evan, not gonna try to say his last name again. Born in Greece, graduated high school there, soon after moved to the United States, attended the University of Delaware. Kelly, how do you feel about that?
University of Delaware? I'm fine with it.
Is it good? Nothing wrong with it?
It's accredited. I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
We're in Delaware. Isn't that a Wayne's?
It's not real popular for folks on the West Coast to attend the University of Delaware, but I mean, sure, it's fine.
Well, he got an undergraduate degree in film theory there and then attended American University for a master's in screenwriting. And then moved to LA in 1995. His first project was a TV film, Trial by Fire, where he was an intern. This guy's career, man, listen, mostly a writer. I'll just hit the hits here. 2003, he wrote additional material for The Jungle Book 2, did the same the next year for The Lion King 3, Hakuna Matata.
No.
The same year,
no.
Mickey, Donald, Goofy, The Three Musketeers. He wrote the whole dang screenplay.
You're not being serious.
Dead serious. 2005, Pooh's Huffalump movie. Tarzan
Okay, that's
2.
a little bit spooky. Huffalumps are creepy.
All right. The Legend Begins. He dug into the backstory of Tarzan, which was just an additional story material again. Then did Pooh's Huffalump Halloween movie. This guy's knocking out direct-to-video Disney classics. Cinderella 3, never heard of it.
He wrote the live-action Beauty and the Beast with Hermione.
Well, that's fine. He also wrote the screenplay for one of your favorites, Hercules, the screenplay for The Nutty Professor, Tinkerbell, The Lost Treasure, The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Beginning.
By the way, the Hercules that he wrote isn't the Hercules that I like. It was a live-action Hercules.
Is it like a good live-action? Like one of those that was considered to be
No, I don't think so.
Okay. The Huntsman, Winter's War, Beauty and the Beast screenplay. That must be the live-action one that people are actually... Yeah, so that's a big break. Emma Watson, Dan Stevens. Guy's got some horror roots. The Guest. Yeah. The Rental as well.
Interesting.
Apostle. Remember that?
I do remember that. I was actually looking at it as a potential staff pick for tonight.
You got Charlie's Angels story by credits and an upcoming film, Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. This guy loves a good origin story, and it looks like he's going to be taking over the Bright franchise as a writer, which is going to again star Will Smith and Joel Edgerton. Wow. Okay. How the hell did this happen? The Unholy 2021 production started. It was announced December 3rd, 2018. Deadline said that Sam Raimi would be producing Shrine, which is a film adaptation of a book from, I believe it's 1983. Yeah. Author James Herbert, don't know anything about him, a UK author, wrote a 433-page version of this story. And this was set to be Evan's directorial debut. He also wrote the script. He's taking a break from all that Disney stuff. September 18th, 2019, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, one of my favorites, way better than Javier Bardem, was cast in the film. Someone said, you said his career took a dive. I think he's done some incredible things in the last few years.
Really? Like?
His performance as Negan might be the best thing The Walking Dead has ever had.
Okay, fine, but that's he's been doing that for a long time.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. I mean, and before that, though,
okay.
The Possession from 2012, an incredible performance, yeah.
That was 9 years ago.
It seems like a long time ago. Remember P.S. I Love You, that film? Gerard Butler. Romance film.
That's not him.
Hilary Swank, he was in that. He played a musician in that. And he actually sings in real life.
Okay, fine.
Likes motorcycles.
Fine, but if we want to go back...
All right, we don't need
Watchmen was amazing.
Okay, didn't see it.
Possession, pretty damn good.
Great film.
Then we've got, he played Joe DiMaggio in The Secret Life of Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, I just think he's good. You're saying that his
career I like him, but his things are not going well. No, they aren't.
I mean, the postcard killings didn't look.
What's the integrity of Joseph Chambers
all
about?
February 27th, 2020, Kate Aselton joined the cast along with William Sadler and a bunch of other folks. I love Kate, though. She's Mark Duplass's wife. She co-starred with him in the 2005 film, one of my all-time favorite mumblecore films, The Puffy Chair. 2012, she wrote and directed a little thriller co-starring Lake Bell and Kate Bosworth called Black Rock that I love. Completely underrated. Incredible actress. So happy to see her in this as well.
Yes.
Principal photography commenced in Boston the same week as they announced that full cast, but on March 14th, filming was suspended due to, guess what, COVID-19.
Freaking COVID ruins everything.
I think this is the first one we've talked about where they actually had to stop filming due to COVID. Most of the other films that we've talked about have had to push back their release date or change the way they were going to release it because of COVID, but this one shut down. And when filming resumed, they had all those CDC guidelines that there could be no more than 10 background actors on set at once. So they had to use the same people in 5 different places, which I didn't notice, but on another viewing, I would probably look for that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to go without mentioning Cricket Brown, aside from having a really fun name. I thought she did a spectacular job as Alice in this movie.
Cricket did do a great job. Good name, good first name as well.
She's only been in a handful of films. She's young, but she has played the role of Alice 3 times in different movies.
Now, why? She just only goes out for Alice flicks?
I don't know. It's super weird, though. Super weird.
Yeah, I don't like that much. That's very strange. What is really strange, though, is in March 2021, the film's title was announced. It had changed from Shrine to The Unholy, and that's really not that long.
Why did they change it? Do we have any understanding of that?
Why would they announce it a month before it came out in theaters then?
Well, that's what I mean. Did it have something to do with like a tragic event? Was there a religious implication that it was like religiously offensive?
Shrine seems pretty universal within religion. Very strange. Maybe they lost the rights from James Herbert's book, but then why would they continue with the story? I have no idea. This is a bizarre film. It was our first time back in the theater. Kelly, I sat down, really annoying people next to me. The food was kind of cruddy. What do you expect when they're feeding you frozen pretzels from last year? I'll take it, though. It was really nice to be back in the theater, to be sitting.
It was great.
Putting my feet up on the back of a seat without anyone caring. It was nice. I don't know. You brought in a full meal.
I did.
And I'll let you talk about that.
Gotta be me, Byron. That's what I do.
It's the worst.
I did purchase popcorn and soda.
And 2 buckets. 2 metal tin buckets.
And 2 tin Woman 1984 commemorative buckets as souvenirs for the girls for our first time back to the theater. I felt bad that we weren't bringing them. But yeah, then I snuck in a really delicious Panera Tuscan tuna sandwich.
Yeah, why did you think that was an okay thing to do?
Cup.
A fruit cup? I missed that.
Unsweetened iced tea, some red vines, and some York peppermint patties, and some new, they're like trolley eggs, but they're actually trolley worms.
Oh,
like with that hard candy
coated.
shell for Sam, because that's his jam.
Those weren't very good.
He loved them. He thought they were just like the best.
I think he's wrong, but that's okay. I just had myself some Parmesan pretzel bites, and I snuck in my classic.
They didn't have Parmesan pretzel, did they? I thought they only had the butter.
No, they had both.
Oh, really?
Regular salted.
I would have ordered those online.
No, they weren't that good. The Parmesan was very stale. It was gross overall. Swedish fish from the tropical Swedish fish. Classic Byron move.
Oh, yeah. I remember the last time we went to a movie, I bought some for you, and then you were really insulting. You didn't even eat them.
I wasn't eating candy that month.
Dick.
Sometimes you don't eat candy. You gotta detox.
Wow. So how many lengths are we going to go to avoid talking about the movie?
I think we've...
I didn't hate it as much as you did, obviously.
I didn't hate it either. I think that they could have been fine with it. I think that this whole thing's weird, though. Like,
it is weird. It was cheesy, and there were some plot points that I feel like they did like rewrites or reshoots to at the last minute that made things rather confusing. But I thought it was fun. You know, like it wasn't one that I was like super bummed to go see. The CG real bad.
Yeah. And I'm really glad to hear you say that. This thing is jam-packed with jump scares, and they could have solved that problem entirely by just like not showing the ghost until the end, and then it would have been a totally acceptable excuse. Like, why not show it? I just don't get it. The thing opens up 1845, Banfield, Massachusetts. But we're in a POV perspective of a woman getting something hammered into her head before she's hoisted above a fire by her neck and burnt alive. What do you think of Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, Jerry Fenn? We're so quickly introduced to him. He's a journalist that's struggling. He accepts a cattle mutilation gig for $150 to take pictures of a cow that turns out to just have a spray-painted Metallica M on its butt. So he decides to make up a story, fabricate what's going on there. Because he finds...
he has a history of fabricating stories. That's just what he does.
Yeah, and that seemed a little far-fetched, that would be the attitude of a professional journalist, to be continually doing that. I don't know. That made it a little bit more... seemed a little Disney. Not a very complex character.
Yeah, I agree.
But I like Jerry. He's a very likable guy. I mean,
he's moderately likable.
That could just be the Jeffrey Dean Morgan effect.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know why you don't like this actor.
He was just a little greasy.
I mean, that's his thing. He's got slick back hair.
Just a little, sleazy a bit.
What are these dolls? Is that a real thing?
Kern dolls? I think so. That seems... I mean, you're the one that's traipsed around those woods far more than I have.
I don't know much about Kern dolls or Kern babies, but... apparently it's something that's buried in fields to bring good luck, but sometimes in special situations it's to lock in potential evil. And in those cases, you're wrapping a chain.
Are they real, or was this something that was just made up for the movie?
I'm looking through a Wiktionary right now, and there is something called a Kern baby, which is a doll or image decorated with corn flowers, traditionally carried in festivals of a kern or harvest home. I don't know if I'm reading anything correctly, but I thought that was an interesting plot point, except that he just aggressively smashes this one to get a better story.
And I said, right at that moment, this is a bad idea.
I mean, of course it's a bad idea. It's an exciting incident. Inciting incident. Exciting.
I was going to say.
Exciting incident. Kinda. Characters that we're introduced to in this small town of Banfield. Alice, played by Cricket Brown, she is a deaf-mute girl. Her uncle, Father Hagen, is played by William Sadler, and he is a good actor, right?
Yeah, I think he's a great actor. Why are you asking that with a question at the end of the sentence?
I didn't really think he was that good in this, but
I thought he did a fine job in this. Honestly, the only person that I thought did just an abhorrent acting job was the kid that played the kid in the wheelchair. Somebody should have evicted him from the freaking set.
Got to be someone's nephew. I thought Carrie Ewells did a pretty bad job.
I loved that hilarious accent. It was great.
Trying real hard to do a Boston, but it wasn't Boston.
Oh, it was Boston. It was just extreme Boston.
He would get kicked out of Duncan in a second.
Go back and watch Mystic River and listen to Tim Robbins.
Really? Okay. Well,
identical accent.
I don't think that me listening to an actor in a fictional film would be a good way to determine if somene's accent is authentic.
My point is, I think he was nominated for an Oscar for that.
I guess that is true. We've seen Carrie recently. It was actually one of the last films we saw in 2019, Black Christmas. He was Professor Gelson. Apparently he's just in bad horror films.
I don't know. I think you're being mean. I thought this was fun.
Well, okay. I thought the film was fun. I think that it could have been good. The moments I really enjoyed were the character developments between Jeffrey Dean Morgan and other people. The middle part of the film was good. And then we're obviously setting up for this wild third act. We've established some relationships. None of them are really fully fleshed out, or he hasn't made any really strong connections with anyone, really. But they manufacture...
I don't know that I'd say that.
I think they kind of manufactured stronger emotional attachments to some of the characters than I bought into.
Well, I think the reason that some of those attachments were pretty close was because he was a bit adrift.
It's pretty telegraphed the direction this movie's going. It's a redemption story, and he's going to sacrifice the things he used to care about to save the day in the end. It's the same as, what's his name's Story Circle. Dan Harmon's Story Circle, The Hero's Journey. Who did that? Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. Very classic storytelling, and that's what makes, I guess, this guy, Evan, a very successful screenwriter. I just don't think he understands horror very well, because this third act, when things actually are ramping up to be scary, it feels a lot more like I'm watching like Ernest Scared Stupid's third act. Like, it's so over the top.
It was a bit over the top, and I felt like there were some interesting plot points that were never. It felt like things were going a direction, and then they didn't. Like, you thought that maybe Carrie was gonna be a real bad guy, but he wasn't. He was
just an ignorant Catholic,
kind of a bad guy.
Yeah,
and
what kind of
and you were
comment is
wondering,
that?
like, there was a point, I don't know about you, but there was a point where I was wondering, like, okay, is there something weird going on with the uncle and the niece here?
Okay,
but there
yeah.
wasn't.
No.
And so there were some things that I was like, it's not like all of those needed to play out, but I just felt like there were some. It just stayed pretty vanilla.
I completely agree.
But I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Fake Javier is great.
Are you really saying that right now?
Yeah, I like Fake Javier.
Well, there's a couple relationship establishing moments, like Jerry talking to Natalie, played by Kate Asselton, after hating him most of this movie, buys him a drink at the bar, and they exchange some stories, and then eventually they go walking through a creek. But like the moment, I still felt a wall between them. They just weren't close enough for the bang at the end to really feel like anything. And the same with Alice's character and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Some people, I guess, was it you that was saying that their relationship felt kind of creepy?
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
did feel
so.
that way.
I think that's one of the things that Jeffrey's done really well. Like in the possession,
Again,
it's always
it
like
just
a
could
good,
be because you've made me immerse myself in
horrible sex
watching
crimes.
things where everybody is creepy.
Yeah,
so I might just be like defaulting to that. I'll admit that.
But even though he is good at that, I felt like there was still room for their relationship to grow that would have made the end feel a little bit more natural. That's all.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, here's the thing. I was really excited to be back in the theater, and this is a genre of horror that I at least like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm super glad it wasn't just some dumbass slasher, although I have to say that I'm down for Spiral.
Okay, yeah, that does look good.
I just enjoyed it. It's, I'd be very surprised if it makes my top 10 list at the end of the year,
I
but
wouldn't let
it was
it.
exactly what I needed. It was a really fun, enjoyable Sunday evening experience. I just think, I really do think the acting performances were great in this, especially Cricket. I think the story is fun, even if it's not wholly original. And I do like that it ties really closely to the Fatima situation, though there were some mistakes. Like, I think the father in this movie said that the two kids were dead by the end of the year, and that's not really true. It was like a couple years later.
Yeah.
But I think it's totally worth a watch. And, please, if you're going to go back to the theater, be safe. The way that we were able to go, it was really, really fun. I give The Unholy 6.1 too many minutes of CG.
Oh my God, I just figured it out.
What?
This movie is just The Little Mermaid.
How?
Well, I mean, Alice gets her hearing and voice back, but she has to sacrifice it at the end to save the day.
Okay, so
same way
first
Ariel
of all,
gets her legs and loses her
I don't know if you've ever
voice.
actually seen Little Mermaid.
It's been a long time, but
none of that happens.
Am I Mandela-ing then? She loses her voice and gains the ability to walk.
Yeah, because the evil sea witch does it to her, and then at the end she gets her voice and she gets to stay with her boyfriend on land, abandoning her entire family for some asshole that she barely knows.
Is that how it ended?
Yes.
I thought she went back to mermaid form.
No.
Oh.
No.
Never mind. But, I mean, I guess if Evan wrote a new version of The Little Mermaid, that's probably how it would end up. But, there are worse films that could have been dumped at this period. This is an opportunity for studios to unleash the things that they were disappointed with the end result. But this is actually one of the first ones that was filmed mid-COVID, so I don't know. I just don't understand what exactly this is. I don't know what Evan's doing. I don't know what Sam Raimi's doing attached to this.
It's fun.
It is fun. I had a good time. There's moments where this tonally shifted in a weird way. Like, was it supposed to be funny? Because there sure were points that were funny. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I thought his performance was great up until that third act where they're like, I feel like they were coming up with lines on the day of the shoot. He's like proclaiming things that are obvious out loud. The connection just between characters didn't ever feel 100%. I bought it at the beginning, but that third act was a total mess. I don't know why they...
I mean, I feel like they were just trying to fit a lot of choose-your-own-adventure things into one single ending.
It didn't need to be that long. It's 99 minutes. Could have cut 10 minutes of it, and it would have been a fine film. I wouldn't have had questions if that's what they did. It did make its budget back. That was a $10 million budget. Box office was $10 million, so no skin off their back. And honestly, I was happy to have mine pressed against a red velvet seat. Again, I really enjoyed being back in the theater.
It was nice.
And it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We could have watched like a Paddington origin story directed.
I love the Paddington movies.
I'm just
They're
coming
great.
up with an example.
Are we
going
to get a third one? Do you know that for a fact?
I don't know. Yes, I am an executive producer of the Paddington franchise, Kelly. I don't know, but I'm just saying it could have been anything, and I would have had just as much fun. So. This is a fine film. I don't think you need to see it. For those reasons, I give the Unholy 4.0 Hail Marys.
And those are our thoughts on the Unholy.
Which, if safely available, go check it out if you agree more with Kelly than me. But I say, stay home.
Paddington 3 is officially in development.
Okay. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. Reach out to us on social media, at Frightday on Twitter and Instagram. Contact at frightday.com is our email address. You can leave a comment below this episode in the show notes at frightday.com. Or we can talk about it in the Facebook group, the Facebook Community Center, facebook.com/group/Frightday. We also have a Discord server, discord.frightday.com. Spending a lot of time in there. That's where I read the news with my pals. It's not good news, Kelly.
No?
No.
Rarely is these days.
Not great. But if you like our show and want to help us make it even better, grab something spooky at shop.frightday.com. I don't talk about our 222 ghoul... Well, I think there's one more too. 2222 Ghoul for School shirt. I just saw it in the stock room, and I was like, I fucking love that shirt. So check that out. It's our homage to the Black Flag logo style design. I really enjoy it, and it's going to be a good summer look for you. There's lots of other stuff there. Pins, patches, glow-in-the-dark stuff, cassette tape of Kelly's Roswell incident special investigation.
That's a good one, man.
And it goes to supporting the show. You get something, and we get to keep doing something we really love. So shop.frightday.com. And we may be fueled by Spring Heel Jack coffee, but it's the members of the Frightday Society who keep us praying to the correct... people. I don't know.
Yeah.
When you join the Frightday Society at patreon.com/Frightday, do you want a new episode each week? You're not going to want to miss this. This is a big, very important upcoming episode of Behind the Screams. I think we got 2 of them booked in. We're talking about that new freaking pyramid UFO.
Oh, yeah, we are. You bet we are.
And then something to celebrate our return to the theater. I don't want to talk about it yet, but it's going to be fun. I think I'm going to do a video version of it too. So you get bonus episodes of Captain Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, Byron's Serial Corner, The Writer's Room, Toast to Toast PM with Wine Kelly, Cinema Autopsy, the first 10 eps. If you want to do that, I talk real slow. It's kind of like me trying to do NPR in the first 10 episodes, but they've got some value. Members also get early access to new products as well as members-only items and 15% off everything at shop.frightday.com. You guys are amazing. It means a lot to me. The support we've seen there, and also it kind of scares me because the closer we get to 175 members, that magical, mystical number, the sooner I get permanent ink cut into my flesh by you, Kelly.
I still want to make sure that I have full autonomy to decide exactly what I'm carving.
I guess. I mean, maybe it'll be a poll or something for the inner circle members into patreon.com/Frightday, but I don't know. Whatever are you a good drawer? You said you don't draw in the last episode of Behind the Screams, so it makes me very nervous.
I promise to focus on something that I can draw.
I think you could probably only draw that S that people carve into desks.
The Stussy S? No, I
Can
don't
do that. All right. Well, whatever you
No.
decide to tattoo in me, it happens as soon as we get up to 175 members, and that includes the $1 bystander concerned citizen level. So hop in there, and we get the old Byron permanent tattoo plus the bi-weekly show on Twitch, twitch.tv/Frightday. So, but also very helpful. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you listen to the show. That's the best way to get us in new ears and up charts. Someone said that we have too many ads on our show and that we're meandering. And the episode they referenced was the highly scripted episode where I talked about Angels of Death. So I don't know what they're talking about.
That was the least meandering we've ever had. What?
I don't know. Unsure.
Oh, that is confusing.
It was very confusing to me, but that's okay. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Kelly, where are you going to be until next week?
I'm going to be getting ready for some medical stuff.
Cool.
And I'll probably be sleeping a lot.
Nice. At Kelly Frightday and kelly@frightday.com, right?
Yeah. Where are you going to be?
Oh, I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram. Byron@frightday.com is my email address. And until next week, where we're going to be talking maybe Jacob's wife?
Cool.
Maybe.
I mean, yeah.
I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly.
Be careful who you're praying to. And stay scared. You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy, theme music provided by Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.